Hey everyone, so I wanted to quickly get this video out before the year started, just so if you choose to, you can start, putting the number one determining factor of success in your lesson plans. We all know how important it is, like the way the year starts kind of sets the tone for everything else. So I wanted to get it before school started so you can be like, okay, I'm going to start implementing that if you choose to. Again, this is like the much shorter version of a much longer explanation. If you want to see the longer explanation with all the sources and where I get all this information from, please watch the longer 35-minute video that I sent last year. It's in your inbox somewhere. Just search it. It'll be there. And this is, I'm not going to share where I got the sources from. I'm just going to tell you stuff. That's the purpose of this is like, hey, real fast, don't want to take your time, but let's talk about this. Okay, so the number one determining factor of success is enjoyment with achievement or enjoyment with accomplishment. So essentially, if a person likes what they're doing and feels like they're getting better at it, they're more apt to continue it. And, almost success breeds success. Video game designers know this, right? They understand this psychological hack, right? And so for example, if you're learning to play piano and you're enjoying playing piano and you're getting better, you're probably going to continue it at least until you stop enjoying it or feel like you're getting better. So enjoyment, you have to love you have to enjoy what you do, right? Like what you do, right? And if you love it, great. Your students have to like what they do. So I want to make sure this is clear too. Enjoyment doesn't always mean fun. So I'm going to use the word fun throughout this at times, mainly just because right? I'm just going to say fun instead of enjoyment, sometimes by accident. But enjoyment doesn't always mean fun. So a person may not have fun cooking Thanksgiving dinner, right? For like 30 people. That might not be fun for them, but they enjoy having everybody together or they enjoy the outcome. So there is a little bit different. When I say fun, it doesn't mean that every second of the period students are laughing and stuff like that, or it doesn't mean that at all. So if you can imagine, like even in my class, like sometimes we're doing essay analysis, which might not be the most enjoyable, right? Like students will not remember each class day by day. They're going to remember the overall feeling of your class. They're going to know if you enjoy what you do, and you should enjoy. Like you should have fun doing this. It makes it so much easier, and it really helps with classroom management. Like totally, if the students really enjoy the class, again, it doesn't have to be every single day. Overall feeling they get from your class, the classroom management is so much easier. I remember I was talking to a teacher years ago, and she was saying that like every week was scripted at their school, and she didn't like it at all. But the last 3 weeks, the principal said, like, teach whatever you want. So she taught mythology. And she goes, I love that. I like live for those last 3 weeks. And I thought, how sad is that? Right? Like she doesn't like everything else she teaches. In the last 3 weeks, she's like, this is fun. Like, what if every lesson was your favorite, right? What if every lesson was fun? And that it should be that, right? Because it's the number one determining factor of success, whether you're successful at is whether you enjoy it or not, right? And you feel like you're accomplishing something, and your students will pay better attention there. So yeah, find a way to make every lesson, every unit, right? Maybe not every single day, fun, enjoyable. So that's what we're going to talk about. So let's how does this tie in with PLC? So first of all, having fun and enjoying what we do is never talked about in education. It's the number one determining factor of success, not just in education, not just with learning and teaching. You can watch my other video for all that explanation, but across genres like hobbies, business, relationships, all that. This is the big picture thing, including education. It's never talked about in education, not even rarely. Sometimes the term student engagement is used, but it's never explained how, right? You're at a workshop, you're like, here's the newest graphic organizer, whatever. And they're like, student engagement. And, if you want to slow down the workshop, raise your hand, be like, excuse me, sir or madam, how do you get students engaged? Like, how does that look? And the presenter will probably say, like, what do you mean? Because that's what people say when they're trying to figure out an answer. Like, what do you mean? Well, you said student engagement. Like, show me the process. Like, how would you make this more fun? And then it's usually like, well, there's a lot of different ways. No, specifically. And then all of a sudden it probably get really quiet because the presenter doesn't have an explanation. Because we never talk about it, right? We never talk about having fun and enjoying this job and having our students have fun. So during PLCs, the question that needs to be asked in every PLC after you discuss what you're talking about for the week is, how are we going to make this fun? So the first thing, right? Like, what are you teaching this week? Oh, I'm going to do this. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's all do that. How are we going to make it fun? And everybody will have a different response. right? Someone's like, oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring this in. Like, that's really cool. I'm going to do it this way. Like, everybody's going to be different because everyone has different personalities. But you might get some ideas. And again, fun and enjoyment doesn't mean just cracking jokes, or it doesn't have to be that way, right? If you're the Star Wars guy at home, be the Star Wars guy at school, right? Put a bunch of Star Wars stuff in your classroom. I don't know, talk like Yoda for like 2 minutes a day. I don't know, whatever that looks like, whatever makes it enjoyable for you. Use one of those Star Wars crawlers, right? That the beginning of the Star Wars movies use. Use that for the daily agenda. Like seriously, something that small, the students are going to, it's dopamine. You're creating dopamine. The students are going to come into class wanting that and looking forward to that. I will talk, I'm going to do a PLC video about how PLCs in education they're performed incompletely. There's a major step in PLCs that are done incompletely. So if you've ever, I don't know if I said that right. There's a major step in PLC, in the process, that's missing. And for those of you that are like, dude, something missing from my PLCs. Yeah, education took PLCs from the business sector, but forgot like this major component piece. I'll do a whole video on it, so I don't want to talk about it right now. But the point I'm saying is, one of the major factors that they're missing is how can we make our students productive? And one of the major way to be productive, how can we get them to enjoy this? So during PLCs, after you figure out what you're going to be doing for the week, go around the table and ask, how are we going to make this fun? How am I going to make it fun for me to teach? How are we going to make it fun for the students? That is such an important aspect. It's the number one most determining factor of success. So that needs to be focused on. So let's look at this. How can we enjoy our class, enjoy what we do, and how do we get the students to enjoy? Well, I mentioned bring your home personality into the classroom. Unless you're a jerk at home, then don't do that, right? Then be an actor, be an actress. Like, find a way to make your class enjoyable for yourself. Focus on you. It's not always like, how are the students going to be, how are they going to have fun with it? How are you going to have fun teaching it, right? The students will have fun. I always tell my students, I lesson plan for my enjoyment because I got to do it every day. And hopefully they enjoy it too. Like I mentioned, if you're a Star Wars guy, be the Star Wars guy at school. Mr. McManaman, right? He brought in those flowers once a week. Why did he bring flowers once a week? I don't know. But he enjoyed doing it, and his students loved it. They would come in and be like, oh, we got a new flower this week. And I'm like, I have no clue why he brings flowers. But that's awesome, because he loves it, he enjoys it, and his students enjoy it. Mr. Ellett, okay, so there was a day where I had some of his students come into my class. You're like, it was so cool, Mr. Ellett's class. I'm like, what? He did his first meme. He created his first meme and he showed it to us today. And he was like showing us the meme and it was the coolest thing. Was it a math meme? I don't know, but it doesn't matter because he was having a blast, showing it, doing it. The students loved it. It was amazing, right? And that's the students talked. I heard it multiple times over many days. They were just so excited about that. And so lesson plan with your students' enjoyment in mind. And lesson plan with your enjoyment in mind, right? How can you make it fun? So let's look at how this happened. Let's look at how this is. Because I mentioned during meetings when people talk about student engagement, you're like, how does that look? People don't give it, like rarely are you going to get an answer. So I have to actually give you an answer. How does it look like? All right. So we all know how lesson planning works. This is the way I do it. Everybody's going to be different. So start with your standard or whatever you're teaching. All right, so I'm going to teach figurative language, whatever. Then, you bring in your textbook stuff, right? And then the question is, how do you make it enjoyable for you and your students? And then I like to do real world connections. It's just a big thing for me. If I can't find a real world connection, I don't like to teach it. So I'll do that. You don't have to. That's just enjoyable for me. Like, hey, here's how it connects to the real world. Let's do a real world kind of thing. So this is what it looks like for me. If I'm teaching what am I teaching? Figurative language. That's the first thing. Okay, now I need the textbook stuff. All right, here's this short story in the textbook that I'm supposed to read and answer questions. Students don't always enjoy that. It can be a little dull. So how do I make it enjoyable for my students? And for me, right? So my personality is kind of stupid humor. So how do I make it enjoyable for me to teach and for my students to learn? First thing that I do is I review the figurative language terms with them, obviously, to make sure they remember them, right? Then I show them a Mad TV skit. It's like a Saturday Night Live skit. It's 4 minutes. Yes, it's district approved. I've got the signatures in my desk if you guys ever want to see them. It's a 4-minute skit. It's about a guy trying to propose to his girlfriend and birds poop on him the entire time. It's hilarious. The students love it. 4 minutes. That's it. They laugh. Afterward, we do it together. Hey, where was the setting? Who's the protagonist, antagonist? What was the conflict? All this stuff, right? Where was the hyperbole, the irony, all that stuff. So then I show them one more funny skit. Yes, it's district approved. I've got the signatures if you want to see it. And then I have them do it. Like, okay, now you guys do it. The whole I do, you do, that kind of stuff. So what I'm doing is I'm creating dopamine, right? They're having fun. They're learning the figurative language that they're supposed to learn, right? It's in the context of a story, creating neural pathways between the term and the definition. They're identifying because of the fun nature of it. Then we read the text that we're supposed to read, the district text, and answer the questions afterward. So we do the fun stuff first because now you're creating confidence, right? They're going to find who the protagonist, the antagonist, the conflict, they're going to find all that stuff, right? They're going to find that in the funny things, right? It creates confidence. It's easier for them. Then we read the text. They already have the confidence. They know they can do it. And it makes it much easier for them. Sometimes I think teachers make the mistake where they do can I say dull stuff first? The stuff that's not as enjoyable first. Then they end with the fun stuff. I think they're losing a huge opportunity. Start with the fun stuff first. Make it easy for the students. Create the dopamine. Create the neural pathways, and then do the actual district text stuff. It makes it so much easier. So fun stuff first. So the takeaway. Be encouraged to have fun in class, to enjoy it, whatever enjoyment means, right? You should be encouraged to do that. Don't be afraid of that. It's the number one determining factor of success. If you enjoy teaching, you're going to teach better. If you during lesson planning, if you know it's going to be fun stuff's coming up, you're going to probably present it much better. Your students will love it. So be encouraged to do that. It shouldn't be a fearful thing, right? Number 2, discuss enjoyment in your PLCs. Like, how can we make this fun? And that's all I got. Thank you.